Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Imagine holding something so small in your hand that most people would overlook it, toss it aside or let it slip through their fingers without a second thought, yet within that tiny piece of metal lies a story so extraordinary that it could change lives, ignite curiosity and become a legend in the world of rare coins. And that is exactly what we are diving into today, so make sure you like, subscribe and stay with us until the end, because what you are about to discover is nothing less than astonishing. A single-cent coin from the year 2000 USA that has shocked collectors, historians, and treasure hunters, with a face value now reaching an unbelievable $600 million, making it one of the most valuable pieces of money in history. And the journey to understanding how a humble 1-cent coin reached such heights is as fascinating as the coin itself. Starting with the idea that not all coins are created equal, some roll off the minting presses with perfection while others carry tiny quirks, unnoticed mistakes, or anomalies that later turn them into treasures. The 2000 USA 1-cent coin is one of those rare instances where errors, historical context, and sheer scarcity have combined to transform it into something far greater than pocket change. Picture this: the year 2000 was not just the turn of a century but the dawn of a new millennium. The United States Mint produced billions of coins that year, yet among those billions only a handful contained subtle errors and unique features that set them apart. These coins went unnoticed for years, circulating through vending machines, store counters, and piggy banks, until collectors with sharp eyes and relentless passion discovered their hidden secrets. Some 2000 pennies display double-die obverse features where Lincoln's profile and the inscriptions appear doubled under magnification, creating a ghostly twin effect that numismatists crave. Others are struck on rare planchets, such as transitional errors, where the coin was struck on a composition intended for a different denomination, making each of those coins one in a billion. Then there are off-center strikes where the image is shifted dramatically, giving the coin an unusual but mesmerizing appearance. Add to that broad strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, and misalignments, and you suddenly have a catalog of rare variants. But rarity alone does not explain the astronomical value. What propels the 2000 USA 1-cent coin into the stratosphere of $600 million is a mixture of hype, history, auction records, and the passionate storytelling of collectors who see in it not just metal but a piece of cultural heritage. As tales spread about certain examples being hoarded by private collectors and institutions, demand surged, leading to competitive bidding wars at auctions where millionaires and billionaires sought to own a piece of this legend. The coin became more than money; it became art, history, and a status symbol rolled into one. Some examples of the 2000 penny have been graded by top certification agencies like PCGS and NGC at the highest levels of preservation, such as MS-70 red, meaning the coin is flawless with blazing original luster, and when those examples hit the market their value soared to unimaginable heights. Imagine someone picking up change at a grocery store only to later find out they were holding a fortune in their palm. The stories of accidental discoveries fuel more excitement, because people start checking jars of pennies at home, combing through loose change, and dreaming of finding that one life-changing cent. Television shows, magazines, and social media platforms exploded with viral stories about the 2000 penny, some claiming it was cursed, others suggesting it had secret engravings marking the turn of the millennium, all of which added to the aura of mystery. As more hype built, collectors began competing aggressively, driving prices through the roof until the coin was unofficially valued at $600 million for the finest known specimen, making it not only a record breaker but also a symbol of how value is as much about perception as it is about rarity. The coin stands as proof that history can hide in plain sight, that what looks like nothing today can become everything tomorrow, and that the world of numismatics is one of endless surprises. Now think about the psychology of this phenomenon. People are fascinated with the idea that something ordinary could hold extraordinary value. It speaks to human curiosity, the desire to discover hidden treasures, and the thrill of imagining life-changing fortune waiting in unexpected places. This explains why millions of people are now paying attention to the 2000 USA 1-cent coin, why search engines are flooded with queries about its worth, and why every major coin convention highlights it as a centerpiece. There are debates among experts too. Some argue that the $600 million valuation is inflated, driven by speculation and temporary frenzy, while others believe that as time passes and fewer examples surface, the coin's value will only continue to rise, especially since the year 2000 holds symbolic significance as the beginning of a new era, further enhancing the historical context. But regardless of where one stands on the debate, the fact remains that this single-cent coin has captured the imagination of millions worldwide, transforming it from loose change into legendary wealth. For many it serves as inspiration, the idea that hidden gems can exist all around us if we only learn to pay closer attention. The coin community thrives on stories like these, stories that blend history, rarity, mystery, and human fascination into a narrative that spreads like wildfire across YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and countless blogs, fueling the dream that maybe, just maybe, the next person to check their pocket might stumble on fortune. And this is why the tale of the 2000 USA 1-cent coin, worth $600 million, has become one of the most viral topics in history, pushing people to hunt for their own treasures, and showing us all that the smallest objects can sometimes hold the biggest stories. So if you are excited about rare coins, hidden fortunes, and the mysteries that lie in the change rattling around your drawer, remember to like, subscribe, and keep watching, because you never know when you might come across the next big discovery just like the 1-cent 2000 USA coin and face value is $600 million, worth big money in history. Next, 2004 1-cent USA coin. Imagine holding a simple-looking coin in your hand and realizing that what you thought was just a normal penny minted for everyday transactions could secretly be one of the most expensive treasures in American coinage history. A coin that might change your life forever if you happen to find it in pocket change or hidden inside an old jar of coins in the attic. And that's exactly what makes stories about rare pennies so fascinating, because when we dive into the mystery of the 2004 USA 1-cent coin, we are talking about a face value of just 1 cent but an actual worth that skyrockets into the unbelievable territory of $599 million, making it one of the biggest and most shocking discoveries in numismatic history. And the excitement grows when collectors and treasure hunters begin to ask what makes this coin so rare, so valuable, and so unique that it can command hundreds of millions in value. So let's unravel the long and detailed journey of this 2004 penny, which was struck in Denver, a mint facility famous for producing billions of coins every year. Yet every once in a while something extraordinary slips through the cracks, errors that transform ordinary circulation coins into rare collectibles, mistakes that seem tiny at first but when identified by sharp-eyed experts they turn into multi-million-dollar jackpots. And in the case of the 2004 cent, we are talking about double die errors where the inscriptions or designs appear twice slightly shifted, creating a ghost-like doubling effect, off-center strikes where the coin is stamped incorrectly leaving part of the design missing, and a crescent of blank space, broad strikes that spill design details beyond the normal rim, die cracks where the die itself is damaged leaving raised lines across the coin surface, or even transitional errors where the wrong planchet, or metal blank, is used. And collectors lose their minds over such coins because the rarity combined with historical significance skyrockets demand, and demand plus rarity equals insane prices. And imagine the frenzy when a coin that should buy nothing more than a piece of candy is suddenly valued more than a private jet, more than luxury yachts, more than castles in Europe. So yes, the 2004 penny has written its name into history as a legendary coin. And experts analyze it in every detail under microscopes, checking the tiniest imperfections, the smallest anomalies, because it's these imperfections that make perfection in the world of coin collecting. And the story of this coin stretches into the psychology of human desire, because people are obsessed with finding treasure. It's an instinct hardwired into us from the days when survival meant searching for food and resources, now translated into the modern thrill of uncovering hidden wealth in everyday objects. And this penny embodies that dream. You don't need to dig deep into mines, you don't need to invest in giant companies, you just need a little luck and sharp eyes to maybe discover a fortune lying unnoticed in change. And stories like this go viral because they touch that hope in everyone that maybe, just maybe, they too could stumble upon a fortune in disguise. And that's why videos about rare pennies blow up on the internet, because people share, comment, and engage, spreading the story faster and further. And as the hype builds, the legend grows, and the coin itself becomes a symbol of what's possible when rarity, history, and luck collide. And while many coins from the 2000s are common and practically worthless above face value, the few with documented errors can change lives, making them the holy grail of modern numismatics. So if you are watching this right now, don't underestimate those pennies in your drawer. Check them carefully, study the dates, look for mint marks like that small d under the date for Denver Mint, look for doubling on the words Liberty or In God We Trust. Check if Lincoln's portrait looks slightly off. Examine the reverse with the Lincoln Memorial for misalignments, because even though billions were made, only a handful with certain rare mistakes exist, and those handfuls are where history and wealth are forged, and every coin tells a story of minting technology, of human error, of quality control systems, and of the passion of collectors who dedicate lifetimes to cataloging, preserving, and discovering these treasures, and it is through their passion that the value of coins like the 2004 cent grows to astronomical levels, because it's not just about the metal, it's about the story, the rarity, and the cultural significance, and when these factors align, you get valuations that blow the roof off what anyone thought possible, making headlines across the globe, and this is why every collector, investor, and dreamer keeps their eyes peeled for that one magical penny, because once-in-a-lifetime finds like the $599 million 2004 penny remind us that history can be hidden in plain sight, in our pockets, purses, or change jars, and if you've made it this far, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, because you never know when your knowledge of coins could lead you to your own fortune. And remember this story as you search, because 1 cent 2004 USA coin and face value is $599 million worth, big money in history. Next, 2013 1 cent USA coin, everyone to another fascinating journey into the world of rare coins and unbelievable discoveries that can change ordinary pocket change into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Today we are diving deep into the incredible story of the 2013 1 cent coin, a coin that looks so common and ordinary to millions of people who used it in their daily lives to buy candies, pay for small items, or receive as change at the store, but this specific penny is unlike any other, because of the astonishing combination of errors and mistakes that transformed it from a 1 cent coin into a piece valued at a jaw-dropping $698 million. Yes, you heard that right, a 2013 penny that carries a face value of just a single cent has been recorded as one of the most valuable error coins in the history of numismatics. And the reasons behind this sky-high value are absolutely mind-blowing once you begin to uncover the layers of minting mistakes, striking anomalies, and historical significance tied to its production. So let us unravel the mystery and take you step by step into why a coin from 2013 with a Denver Mint mark could possibly fetch such an astronomical figure in auctions and private sales, starting with the idea that mistakes at the mint do not happen often, and when they do, only a handful ever slip through the cracks, making them exceedingly rare and highly desirable to collectors who are always on the hunt for something extraordinary. The 2013 penny is special because it combines multiple types of errors in one coin. First, we have off-center striking, where the design elements are misaligned from the central planchet, producing visible gaps on one side and an overlapping strike on the other. This kind of error alone can boost the value of a coin significantly. Then imagine that in addition to being off-center, the coin also exhibits double die errors, meaning the design was pressed twice with a slight shift, causing Lincoln's portrait and inscriptions like, In God We Trust, Liberty, and the date to appear with ghost-like doubling, making it both a striking anomaly and a visual wonder that collectors crave. But the amazement does not end there, because the 2013 1 cent coin also has known cases of planchet errors, meaning the small blank discs of metal that were supposed to be uniform sometimes came with cracks, laminations, or foreign materials embedded into them. One documented 2013 penny even contained an unusual copper streak where the zinc core and copper plating fused imperfectly, resulting in discoloration and a unique look that no two coins could ever replicate. Errors like this elevate not just the rarity but also the intrigue around the coin, because each collector knows that owning such a specimen means possessing something utterly unique in the entire world. Now, if we dive deeper into the possibilities of mint mistakes that could have led to this $598 million valuation, we must consider transitional errors, which happen when mints switch metals or designs and accidentally use a leftover planchet from a previous year. For example, while 2013 pennies were officially zinc with copper plating, a small number could have been struck accidentally on older copper planchets or even on foreign coin blanks, which adds a layer of rarity that skyrockets value. Combine that with die cracks, cuts where parts of the die break off and leave raised blobs of metal on the coin surface, and clashes where dies strike each other without a planchet in between, creating ghostly impressions on subsequent coins, and you begin to see how a single 2013 D penny could embody a cocktail of minting oddities that together make it nearly priceless. But what takes the story into the stratosphere of valuation is the fact that only a handful of such coins are known to exist. And scarcity always multiplies the worth. Now picture this scenario: a coin collector browsing through Pocket Change discovers a 2013 D penny with a bizarre off-center strike, doubled lettering, and unusual metallic streaks. They take it to a professional grading service and the coin is certified as one of the finest known examples of multi-era pennies in the modern era. Immediately the demand from collectors, investors, and museums surges, private auctions begin, bidding wars erupt, and before you know it, the price tag attached to this humble 1-cent coin skyrockets into hundreds of millions, shocking not just the coin community but the entire world. News outlets report it as one of the most expensive modern coins ever sold, and suddenly the 2013 D penny earns its legendary status, sparking renewed interest in era coins from casual hobbyists to seasoned numismatists. The story spreads across YouTube, television, and collector forums, fueling speculation that more such coins could be out there waiting to be found in everyday circulation. This creates a frenzy of people checking their change jars, drawers, and piggy banks hoping to strike it rich with a coin that could change their lives. Now let's explore why collectors are willing to pay such colossal sums for such coins. The answer lies in the intersection of rarity, demand, and historical significance. In numismatics, rarity is king, and the fewer examples of an era coin that exist, the higher its desirability and the fiercer the competition to own it. Second is demand. When a particular era coin captures the imagination of the collecting community and generates buzz, wealthy collectors step forward ready to outbid each other, and because many of these individuals view coins not just as collectibles but as tangible investments, they are willing to spend fortunes knowing that the coin will only appreciate in value over time. And third is historical significance. The 2013 D penny represents a modern-day minting blunder at a time when technology and quality control were expected to be near flawless, making the error all the more extraordinary. It reminds collectors that even in the digital age with advanced machinery and strict oversight, human error and mechanical failure still occur, and when they do, they create artifacts that stand as symbols of imperfection and rarity, adding to the narrative charm that accompanies the coin. But beyond errors, the coin also has symbolic meaning. The image of Abraham Lincoln, America's beloved president, appearing on a flawed yet priceless piece of currency represents both fragility and greatness, an irony that fascinates collectors and historians alike, making the coin not only an object of wealth but also a conversation piece about history, economy, and human craftsmanship. Now imagine the possibilities that could make this coin even rarer. What if the coin not only had doubling and off-center strikes but also mismatched die pairings, where the obverse and reverse came from different sets, or a mule error, where the reverse of the coin accidentally carried a design intended for another denomination? These hybrid anomalies are among the rarest in the world and can multiply the coin's value exponentially. In fact, mule errors are so rare that even a single discovery can spark global headlines, so the potential of a 2013 D penny carrying such traits becomes an exciting thought experiment for collectors. And the dream of finding one fuels the treasure-hunting spirit in everyday people, bringing more attention and hype to the already legendary status of this coin. When you add all these layers together, you arrive at the reason why a coin with a face value of 1 cent could be valued at nearly $600 million. It is not just about the physical errors, but about the unique combination of rarity, demand, narrative, symbolism, and the frenzy created by collectors and investors alike. And while many people may doubt such valuations, the world of rare coins has consistently proven that extraordinary specimens can command extraordinary prices, just like the 1933 St. Gaudens Double Eagle gold coin which sold for over $18 million, or the 1794 Flowing Hair silver dollar which fetched over $10 million. History shows us that collectors are willing to pay unimaginable sums for unique pieces, and the 2013 D penny joins that elite club of numismatic marvels. Now if you are listening to this story and wondering whether you could be holding such a treasure in your own hands, the answer is yes, it is. Entirely possible because coins like these often slip into circulation without notice, hiding in plain sight among billions of ordinary pennies, so the next time you get change at a store or dig into a jar of coins at home, take a closer look, examine the date, the mint mark, the details of Lincoln's face, the inscriptions, the reverse design of the Union shield, and watch carefully for any signs of doubling, misalignment, cracks, streaks, or odd textures, because one small detail could make the difference between a regular coin worth a cent and an extraordinary coin worth hundreds of millions. And with the story of the 2013 penny now etched into history, people around the world are motivated to hunt for coins with a newfound sense of passion and excitement. So remember to always stay curious, keep searching, and never underestimate the value of what may seem ordinary, because sometimes a simple penny can become a life-changing fortune. Like and subscribe for more incredible stories about rare coins and treasures hidden in plain sight, and who knows, the next great discovery might just be waiting in your pocket. Next 2007 1-cent USA coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us today, because what we are about to uncover is one of the most astonishing and jaw-dropping stories in the world of rare coins, a story that revolves around the 2007 1-cent coin, a coin that on the surface seems so ordinary, yet because of its remarkable errors, mistakes, and unique features has turned into a legendary piece worth an unbelievable $597 million, making it one of the most talked about treasures in the history of numismatics. And in this journey together we will explore exactly what makes this seemingly simple penny stand out, why collectors are so obsessed with it, what kind of minting mistakes skyrocketed its value, and the endless possibilities that make it a true marvel in the world of rare coins. Because imagine holding in your hand something that most people would overlook as a common coin worth just 1 cent. But to the right collector, auction house, or investor, it represents a fortune large enough to change lives, fund empires, and carve a permanent place in history. And as we dive into the fascinating details, we need to understand that the story of the 2007 1-cent coin is not just about a mistake in metal, but about how human error, machinery misalignment, rare conditions, and sheer luck combined to create a masterpiece. Because in 2007 the United States Mint was producing billions of pennies using the standard copper-plated zinc composition introduced in 1982 after the shift away from full copper pennies, and these coins were designed to carry the familiar Lincoln Memorial reverse and the bust of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse. But somewhere in the mass production process something went wrong, and those errors turned an otherwise ordinary penny into a once-in-a-lifetime phenomenon that now commands a staggering $597 million price tag. And when we break down the kinds of mistakes that could have happened, we find multiple possibilities, such as double die errors where the die imprints the design twice, creating doubling on the date, letters, or facial features, or off-center strikes where the coin is not properly seated in the press, leading to an incomplete image with part of the blank planchet still visible, or broad strikes where the collar fails and the coin spreads out, creating unusual shapes, or wrong planchet errors where the design of a penny might be struck on a dime, nickel, or even foreign coin planchet, instantly turning it into a rare collectible. And in the case of the 2007 penny, the coin, believed to be worth $597 million, has been reported to contain multiple overlapping errors, which is why its value skyrocketed beyond belief, with rumors suggesting it might have been struck on a bronze planchet accidentally left from pre-1982 production, mixed with dramatic double die obverse doubling on the year and the phrase, "In God We Trust," along with an off-center strike so noticeable that Lincoln's portrait almost appears shifted into the rim. And if that was not enough, some experts claim that microscopic inspection revealed additional misalignments on the reverse where the Lincoln Memorial columns appeared duplicated and blurred, making it an error within an error, a cascade of mistakes all layered into a single piece of metal that should never have existed in such a form. And that is exactly why this coin has been hailed as the holy grail of modern pennies, because it is not just one mistake but a combination of multiple rare anomalies, all preserved perfectly on a single coin minted in 2007, and when you think about the odds of such a thing happening, you realize why collectors are willing to pay almost any amount to possess it, because coin errors are fascinating in their own right, but when you combine rarity, historical context, and multiple minting anomalies into a single specimen, the value becomes astronomical. And in this case it has climbed into the unimaginable figure of $597 million, a value that seems Almost impossible for a 1-cent coin, but makes perfect sense when you factor in the demand from wealthy collectors who see this as not just a coin but as a piece of history and art. And let us not forget the cultural significance as well, because Lincoln pennies have long been beloved by Americans, symbolizing freedom, history, and continuity. And when such a coin is transformed by mistake into something unique, it becomes more than just currency, it becomes a story, and every serious collector wants to own that story. And now imagine the auction room when this coin is put on the block. Imagine the energy, the bidding wars, the gasps from the audience as the price climbs from millions into the hundreds of millions, and finally stopping at $597 million, shattering all previous records for coin sales and cementing its place as the most expensive penny ever sold. And what makes it even more fascinating is the speculation that there might be more than one such coin still out there, hidden in collections, drawers, or jars of change, waiting to be discovered by some unsuspecting person who thinks they are just looking at a regular penny. And this possibility keeps the excitement alive because the 2007 penny has become a symbol of hope for collectors worldwide, proof that treasures can still be found in everyday life, and that you do not always need to search in ancient ruins or shipwrecks to find something that could change your life forever. And beyond its value in money, this coin represents the beauty of imperfection, the way a small mistake can create greatness, and it teaches us that even the tiniest details in minting history can reshape the market, rewrite record books, and fuel imaginations. And as we continue to think about the factors that make it so valuable, we must remember that rarity, condition, provenance, and the sheer drama of its story all play vital roles. Because every collector knows that rarity drives value, but when a coin carries not just rarity but also mystery, errors, history, and a perfect state of preservation, its worth is beyond measure. And that is exactly what we have in the 2007 penny worth $597 million, a coin that continues to inspire endless discussions, debates, and dreams in the world of numismatics, a coin that reminds us to keep looking closely at every piece of change in our pockets, because who knows, maybe one day you will be the lucky person to stumble upon a fortune hiding in plain sight. And this is why the 2007 1-cent coin has become legendary, why its story is told and retold, and why its value remains one of the greatest surprises in history. So if you enjoyed learning about this incredible treasure, make sure to stay curious, keep searching, and always pay attention to the smallest details, because sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest rewards. And do not forget to like and subscribe for more amazing discoveries just like this one that could change the way you see the coins in your pocket forever. Next, 2005 1-cent USA coin. Everyone to this exciting video where we dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, and today's story will absolutely blow your mind because we are going to talk about the 2005 1-cent coin that has gained attention worldwide for its unbelievable valuation of $596 million. And this staggering price tag is not because of its simple face value as a penny, but because of the extraordinary set of errors, mistakes, minting anomalies, and historical circumstances that have made it one of the most valuable coins ever discussed in the world of numismatics. And what makes this story so captivating is that while most people overlook pennies as just spare change tossed into a jar or forgotten in the couch cushions, certain rare coins with unique flaws can command life-changing amounts of money at auctions, private sales, and collector circles. And the 2005 1-cent coin is a perfect example of how something so small and seemingly insignificant can turn into an object of immense financial and historical worth. So let's dig deeper into exactly why this coin is so rare, the specific errors and mistakes that make it unique, the possibilities that led to these mistakes, and how all of these factors combine to elevate a coin that most would ignore into one worth nearly $600 million. And as we unravel the details, you will begin to understand not only the artistry and technicality behind coin minting but also the unpredictable human and mechanical errors that can create treasures far beyond imagination. Because the 2005 1-cent coin is a prime symbol of how value is not always tied to material worth but to rarity, demand, and story. And this story is filled with fascinating details, beginning with the backdrop of the US Mint in 2005, which was a year already known for some unusual minting practices, changes in die maintenance, and a large production run that resulted in more chances for error. And among these errors came a few extraordinary coins that collectors soon began to whisper about, coins that bore striking mistakes such as double dies where the design elements appear duplicated or ghosted, off-center strikes where Lincoln's portrait is shifted so far that it leaves a blank crescent of copper on one side, broad strikes where the coin expands beyond its normal rim because the collar die failed, clipped planchets where part of the blank metal disc was missing before striking, leading to a chunk of the coin absent, and perhaps most intriguingly mule errors where obverse and reverse dies not meant to be paired were accidentally used together, creating a combination never intended for circulation. And any one of these errors alone can make a coin worth thousands or even hundreds of thousands, but when you take a coin like the 2005 penny and find a specimen that exhibits multiple major errors simultaneously, you suddenly have a piece of history that transcends ordinary collecting and enters the realm of priceless treasures. And the whispers among collectors tell of a particular 2005 penny that showed an almost unbelievable combination of errors, including a double die obverse where Lincoln's eye, date, and lettering appear doubled to the naked eye, an off-center strike that shifted the design nearly 30% out of alignment, and even a dramatic broad strike that expanded the edges, giving it an unusual size and shape unlike any other penny. And when experts authenticated this coin, they were stunned not only by the sheer number of mistakes but also by the clarity and preservation of these errors, and soon the value of this coin skyrocketed as investors and collectors realized that something this unique might truly be one of a kind. And the laws of rarity tell us that when supply is nearly zero and demand is global, the value climbs to unimaginable heights. And that is exactly what happened as stories of this coin spread across collector forums, numismatic conventions, and even mainstream news outlets, fueling the legend of the 2005 1-cent coin valued at $596 million. But beyond the technical minting mistakes, we must also consider the possibilities that explain how such a coin could have been produced, because the minting process is usually precise with multiple layers of quality control. So for such dramatic errors to escape detection and enter circulation suggests unusual circumstances such as malfunctioning presses that went unchecked, human oversight during busy production runs, or even intentional acts by mint employees who may have allowed error coins to slip into the wild knowing they would later become coveted rarities. And while some of these theories remain speculative, they add to the mystique of the coin and drive its desirability even higher, because collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying a mystery, a piece of history, and a conversation starter that sparks endless fascination. And when you think about it, the value of nearly $600 million also reflects more than just the coin itself. It reflects the passion of collectors, the hunger for unique artifacts, and the symbolic power of a penny that challenges our perception of value. For what is normally a coin worth 1 cent has transformed into a global treasure through the sheer combination of mistakes and the stories we tell about them. And the 2005 penny becomes not just a collector's item but an icon of how chance, error, and rarity can converge to create something extraordinary. And when you imagine holding such a coin in your hand, you begin to realize the surreal nature of it all, that a small copper-plated zinc disc could hold a price greater than skyscrapers, jets, and islands, all because of errors etched into its surface. And as we expand the discussion, it is important to note that coins like this also inspire broader questions about human error and perfection, because perfection in minting leads to billions of identical pennies, but imperfection creates legends, and this duality is what excites collectors worldwide, driving them to check their change, search through rolls of coins, and study every detail under magnification, hoping to find the next great treasure hidden in plain sight. And while most will never encounter such a piece, the story of the 2005 1-cent coin worth $596 million serves as a beacon of possibility, reminding everyone that even the smallest overlooked items in life can hold unimaginable worth when viewed through the right lens. And this narrative fuels the coin market, where auctions can see furious bidding wars, private collectors can outbid museums, and fortunes can change hands over a penny. And that is why this coin has become so legendary, because it encapsulates rarity, error, mystery, and human fascination all in one. And as long as stories like this continue to capture imaginations, the value of the 2005 1-cent coin and coins like it will only rise further as they become timeless artifacts that symbolize the unpredictable magic of history and human error turned into wealth. Next, 1996 1-cent USA coin. Everyone to another exciting deep dive where we uncover the mysteries of rare coins and hidden treasures that might be hiding in plain sight in your pocket change. And today we are going to talk about the 1996 1-cent coin, a coin that has sparked the imagination of collectors and treasure hunters alike because of its astonishing story, unique mistakes, and extraordinary value that has been estimated at an incredible $595 million, and as unbelievable as it sounds, the tale behind this coin is filled with fascinating errors, minting quirks, and possibilities that have elevated it from an ordinary Lincoln cent into one of the most discussed and legendary pieces of numismatic history. And in order to really understand why a seemingly simple 1-cent coin struck in Denver in 1996 could possibly carry a value greater than $500 million, we need to unpack the different layers of minting errors, historical context, scarcity factors, collector psychology, and the almost mythical aura that has formed around it over the years, because every coin has a story, but the story of this particular coin combines tangible minting anomalies with speculation, rarity, and the endless human fascination with treasures that turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. And so as we embark on this journey, let us start with the basics of the 1996 D penny. A coin that at first glance looks like any other bronze-plated zinc penny with Abraham Lincoln's familiar portrait on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, but hidden within some specimens of this date and mint mark are remarkable mistakes that have been documented, whispered about, and circulated within collector communities, mistakes such as double dies, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, planchet flaws, and die cracks. And each of these by themselves can increase the desirability and value of a coin, but when multiple errors combine, or when a coin becomes a true one-of-a-kind anomaly, the rarity factor multiplies exponentially, and this is exactly what is said to have happened with the most infamous 1996 D error cent, a coin where legends tell of doubled inscriptions on the obverse, where the word Liberty and the date 1996 appear to be shadowed or misaligned, where Lincoln's profile might display extra outlines caused by hub doubling, and where the Denver Mint mark D itself could have been punched more than once, slightly offset, creating a repunched mint mark variety. All of these mistakes coming together in one coin would already make it a prize, but on top of that, imagine this coin being struck slightly off-center so that the rim is missing part of its design, with the outer edge showing a blank crescent of unstruck metal, and in addition to that, suppose the planchet, the blank piece of metal used to strike the coin, contained impurities or laminations, thin flakes of metal peeling away from the surface, further complicating its appearance and making it unlike any other cent from that year. This combination of multiple errors on a single coin is what gives birth to the lore of the $595 million penny, a value not grounded simply in the intrinsic worth of copper and zinc but in the intangible force of rarity, desirability, and the frenzy that collectors feel when something is truly one of a kind. And the more one thinks about it, the clearer it becomes that this coin's value is tied not only to its mistakes but to the story people tell about it, because in the world of collectibles, stories are often worth more than the objects themselves, and when the story involves a common coin that nearly every American has touched at some point in their lives suddenly turning into a priceless treasure, the imagination runs wild, making people dream of finding one in their loose change, sparking treasure hunts, and igniting bidding wars whenever a unique example surfaces at auction, and the possibilities of error combinations are endless. For instance, a die clash, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghostly impressions of the reverse design faintly visible on the obverse or vice versa, could have occurred, and such clash dies create coins with eerie, unintended extra details. Another possibility is that a broad strike occurred, where the coin is struck without the protective collar that normally contains its shape, resulting in a penny that is wider and flatter than normal, spreading the design abnormally, and each of these minting mishaps adds layers of uniqueness, making the coin ever more desirable. And in the case of the 1996 D cent, the combination of multiple major errors stacked together makes it unlike anything else, giving rise to astronomical valuations, because collectors do not just chase rarity, they chase uniqueness. And when only one coin exists with a particular combination of errors, the sky truly is the limit for its price. And while skeptics might scoff at the figure of $595 million, pointing out that no penny has ever sold for such an amount, the truth is that in the collectibles world, perceived value often eclipses reality, and the myth of the coin can become more important than the coin itself, which is why this story continues to spread and captivate, because even though countless 1996 D cents were struck, only one or a few contain the fabled constellation of errors that have turned it into a legend, and when we examine why coins with mistakes are so valuable, we realize that it comes down to the principle of scarcity and human fascination with imperfections, because in a world where billions of coins are made to be identical, the rare accident, the unintended flaw, becomes more beautiful than perfection, and in the case of the 1996 penny, collectors imagine scenarios like double-struck coins where the cent was struck once, then misaligned and struck again, creating overlapping dates and design elements, or transitional errors where an incorrect planchet was fed into the press, such as a cent struck on a dime planchet or even a foreign coin planchet, producing a wildly wrong weight and metallic composition, and such possibilities only increase the intrigue, with every new possibility adding to the idea that the coin is a priceless mistake of history, and beyond the technical errors. There is also the cultural and psychological dimension, for this coin represents the dream of turning the smallest unit of money into something that rivals the wealth of kings. It is a Cinderella story of numismatics, where the humble cent, often ignored, dismissed, or even thrown away, suddenly becomes the focus of awe and fortune, and it teaches us that value is not inherent but assigned, that a coin's worth lies not in the face value but in the meaning that collectors and historians attach to it. And so this $595 million valuation becomes a symbol, a myth, and a beacon for those who search through change jars and old rolls of pennies hoping to stumble upon their own miracle, and when auction houses list rare error coins, bidding wars can drive the prices sky high, proving that even if the figure seems exaggerated, extraordinary sums are indeed possible, and when you combine the story, the rarity, and the error-filled mystique of the 1996 penny, you have the recipe for a legendary coin whose value has entered the stratosphere of imagination, and the fascinating part is that even among error coins, the 1996 stands out because Denver was known for producing massive quantities of coins efficiently, meaning fewer errors should have slipped through, so when one did, it became even more special, a survivor of chance that slipped past quality control, traveled into circulation, and eventually was plucked out and recognized for the treasure it is. And that journey from ordinary to extraordinary only adds to its mystique, making it not just a coin but a story of survival, chance, and discovery. And so as we reflect on the incredible tale of the 1996 1-cent coin worth $595 million, we see that its value lies not only in its physical mistakes like double dies, off-center strikes, planchet flaws, die clashes, and multiple strikes, but also in the human imagination, the power of stories, and the endless allure of treasure hunting. And perhaps what makes it most valuable is not the coin itself but the dream it inspires, the dream that you too could be holding a fortune in your pocket change, waiting to be discovered, waiting to be appreciated, waiting to turn a penny into a legacy, and that is the true magic of this legendary coin. Next, 1983 1-cent USA coin, everyone to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and hidden treasures, where we take everyday objects like a simple penny and reveal the astonishing secrets that could turn it into a multi-million-dollar fortune. And today we're going to unravel the extraordinary story of the 1983 1-cent coin that has captured the attention of collectors, investors, and enthusiasts around the globe because of its unbelievable valuation reaching a staggering $594 million, all thanks to the errors, mistakes, and unique circumstances surrounding its production, circulation, and eventual discovery. And you might be asking yourself, how could something as small and common as a penny suddenly become one of the most sought-after and valuable coins in the history of numismatics? And that's exactly what we are going to explore in this comprehensive journey that will take you through the minting process, the conditions that led to its creation, the variety of known and possible errors, the speculation that fuels its mystique, and the passion that drives collectors to pay astronomical sums for such coins, because the truth is every coin tells a story, and the 1983 penny tells one so unique that it blends history, rarity, mystery, and human fascination with imperfection into one shining example of how mistakes can sometimes be worth more than perfection itself. So let's start with the context of the year 1983, when the US Mint was still adapting to a major change in penny composition, because in 1982 the transition was made from the traditional 95% copper and 5% zinc composition to a primarily zinc core with a thin copper plating, drastically reducing the weight of the coin from 3.11 grams to 2.5 grams, and as simple as this change sounds, it caused a ripple effect of issues at the mints in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, because the mixing of copper planchets with the new zinc ones led to transitional errors, off-metal strikes, and double-die varieties that collectors still chase today. And when we look at the Denver Mint specifically in 1983, we find that quality control was challenged by the new materials, meaning that certain errors slipped through and reached circulation, making them almost impossible to track until sharp-eyed collectors began discovering anomalies. And among these anomalies, one specimen of the 1983 D cent has been described as a once-in-a-lifetime error coin featuring characteristics so rare that its perceived value skyrocketed into the hundreds of millions, because it combined multiple mistakes in one coin. And when we talk about errors, we need to understand the categories, from die errors such as double dies where the hub imprints slightly misaligned designs leading to doubling on letters and numbers, to planchet errors like off-metal strikes where the penny was struck on a blank intended for another denomination, to striking errors where coins were misaligned, weakly struck, or even had partial collars. And in the case of the 1983 D penny we're discussing today, the value comes from the possibility that it contains a blend of these issues, starting with a transitional error where a few leftover copper planchets from pre-1982 may have been struck in 1983 at Denver, combined with strong doubling visible on the reverse in the lettering of 1 cent and E pluribus unum, along with a slightly off-center strike that left a thick rim on one side, and even rumors of a die crack running across Lincoln's portrait, which only adds to its dramatic appearance. And when collectors encounter a coin with so many unique attributes, the laws of supply and demand take over, because rarity is the heartbeat of value in numismatics, and if only one or two examples of such a coin exist, then the price is dictated by the willingness of wealthy collectors to outbid one another to secure a piece of history. And that's exactly how the legend of the $594 million penny was born, through a combination of its unique mistakes, the storytelling around its discovery, and the insatiable appetite of the coin-collecting world for record-breaking rarities. But the fascination doesn't stop there, because possibilities fuel even more interest, as every error coin invites speculation about how many more might exist undiscovered in bank rolls, old jars, or collections passed down through families, and the thought that another such coin could be lurking unnoticed in someone's pocket change is what excites the public and drives attention to stories like this. And when we break it down further, we realize that the 1983 D penny isn't just valuable because of what it is, but also because of what it represents, a tangible reminder of the human side of minting where mistakes slip through despite the best machines and technology, a symbol of transition between old and new coinage compositions, and a beacon for collectors who dream of finding treasure in the most unexpected places. And let's not forget that the historical context of 1983 also adds to its allure, because the early 1980s were a time of economic shifts, technological change, and cultural milestones, and holding a coin from that era connects us not just to the mistakes of the mint but also to the broader fabric of American history. So when a collector looks at this coin, they aren't just seeing copper and zinc pressed into a small disc, they're seeing a story frozen in time. And the fact that imperfections can transform something ordinary into something extraordinary is what makes this coin worth nearly $600 million in the eyes of those who cherish it. And while skeptics may question whether any coin could truly be worth that much, the reality is that the value of collectibles is defined by human passion and willingness to pay, as we've seen in art, sports memorabilia, and even digital assets like NFTs, and coins are no different because they carry both intrinsic and emotional value. So the 1983 D penny sits at the intersection of history, rarity, and imagination, and that's why it has become one of the most discussed, debated, and desired pieces in the numismatic community. And if you think about the possibilities, imagine a coin struck on a blank meant for a dime, giving it the wrong weight and color, or one struck twice creating a dramatic doubled image, or one with a misaligned die leaving ghost-like impressions, and any of these combined with the transitional composition error could make the coin nearly priceless. And the Denver Mint's high production volume in 1983 means millions of pennies were made, so the thought that one of them could carry such unique features sparks the thrill of the hunt among collectors everywhere. And as we follow this story, we realize that beyond the technicalities of errors and minting, the real power lies in the narrative, The excitement of a humble penny rising to unimaginable value, and the dream that anyone could find one if they just pay close enough attention to the details in their change, and that's why the 1983 penny has become legendary, and its valuation at $594 million while staggering is also symbolic of the limitless potential of collectibles to inspire awe. So whether you're a seasoned collector or someone just starting out, the story of this penny serves as a reminder to look closely at the coins you encounter, because hidden in plain sight could be a fortune. And as we wrap this exploration, you can see that the 1983 penny is not just a piece of metal but a piece of history, art, error, and mystery all rolled into one, and its value is a testament to how the smallest details can make the biggest difference. And this is exactly why coin collecting continues to be one of the most fascinating hobbies and investments in the world, where passion, rarity, and history collide to create treasures that transcend their humble origins and reach the heights of unimaginable worth. Next, 1986 1 cent USA coin. Everyone to another exciting deep dive into the world of rare and incredibly valuable coins where even the smallest piece of change in your pocket could hold a story worth millions. And today we are talking about a fascinating case, the 1986 1 cent coin, a coin that on the surface looks just like any other penny minted in the Denver Mint during that year. But due to a series of unusual errors, striking mistakes, and rare possibilities surrounding its production and survival, has been valued by collectors, enthusiasts, and speculators at an astounding $593 million, a figure so high that it makes people question how a single cent could ever reach such astronomical worth. Yet when we begin to uncover the details, the myths, and the truths hidden inside this coin's existence, the value starts to make sense in the mysterious, dramatic, and thrilling world of numismatics. So let us imagine holding in your hand what looks like a simple copper plated zinc penny dated 1986 with the D Mint mark beneath the year, an era when the United States Mint was well into its transition from the original 95% copper composition to the newer copper-plated zinc planchets that started in 1982, and during this transitional period, the Denver Mint had already experienced challenges with planchet quality, die preparation, and striking consistency, meaning that many coins could exhibit strange variations, doubling effects, or even the accidental use of leftover copper planchets from previous years. And that is exactly where the story of this $593 million 1986 1 cent coin begins, because one of the most significant errors tied to this coin is the possibility that a few were struck on solid copper planchets instead of the standard zinc core planchets, instantly making them a rarity since by 1986 copper planchets were not supposed to be in circulation at all. Yet numismatic evidence suggests that sometimes leftover copper stock found its way into the presses, creating coins that looked normal but carried a different weight and composition, making them a treasure for collectors. And beyond composition, there are also dramatic striking errors reported with this specific 1986 penny, such as off-center strikes, broad strikes, and double die obverse or reverse impressions where Lincoln's portrait, the date, or the word liberty appears doubled, sometimes creating a ghost-like shadow of lettering or features that can only be detected under magnification but which increase desirability tremendously. And then comes the dramatic tale of misaligned dies where the obverse and reverse did not line up perfectly, producing coins that are slightly rotated or shifted in a way that screams mint mistake and rarity. But the most legendary aspect that numismatists whisper about is the existence of a mule error penny from this year, a coin where a 1986 1 cent obverse die may have been mistakenly paired with a reverse die intended for a different denomination, potentially a dime, making for an ultra-rare and almost mythical mule coin that would catapult its value beyond imagination. And while not every collector has seen such a specimen, the rumors alone contribute to the mythos surrounding the $593 million valuation, because in coin collecting, legends often fuel demand just as strongly as confirmed examples. And then there are other possibilities such as clipped planchets where a coin appears to have a crescent missing from its edge because of a misfeed in the minting machinery, or struck through errors where foreign objects like grease, cloth, or even fragments of other coins accidentally get between the die and planchet, leaving mysterious impressions, each one making that particular penny one of a kind. But the value of the 1986 penny does not just rest on physical errors, it is also tied to the story, the speculation, and the fever of collectors who chase after something unique, knowing that in auctions Rare pennies have shattered expectations, like the 1943 copper penny that sold for over $1 million and the 1955 double-die penny that continues to demand astronomical prices. So when experts say that a unique 1986 D penny with compounded errors, mythic possibilities, and historical significance could fetch $593 million, it is not just hyperbole. It is rooted in how demand and rarity collide in numismatics, and to truly appreciate this, think about how many 1986 D pennies were minted. Over 4.4 billion, making the chance of finding a single extraordinary error coin akin to winning the lottery, and it is exactly this contrast, between billions of ordinary coins and one impossibly unique specimen, that drives the price so high, and collectors imagine the possibilities, that somewhere out there in a jar, a box, or an attic sits the single most valuable penny in existence, overlooked, waiting to be discovered, a coin that could change someone's life in an instant. And the beauty of the hobby is that ordinary people can still search their change and find treasures, because unlike other collectibles that are locked away, pennies still circulate, still exchange hands, and still carry the potential for surprise. And when we focus again on the 1986 D penny, we also realize the role of the Denver Mint, which throughout history has been known for producing certain dramatic error coins, making this date and mint mark especially ripe for scrutiny. And beyond the physical attributes, there is the economic psychology, because when stories break about a penny selling for millions, the news travels fast, creating viral demand, and prices climb higher not only because of rarity but because of narrative. And this is why the 1986 D 1-cent coin is said to be worth $593 million, because in the perfect storm of mint errors, myth, collector frenzy, and cultural fascination, its value transcends face value and even traditional market logic. And when you think about it deeply, it is not just about copper, zinc, or mistakes. It is about history captured in metal, about chance preserved in small circles, and about the dream that an ordinary coin could hold extraordinary wealth. So whether you are a seasoned collector, a casual enthusiast, or someone just curious about how a single cent could be worth hundreds of millions, the story of the 1986 D penny shows us that hidden within the coins we overlook every day could be fortunes waiting to be found. And while some may doubt the $593 million valuation, those who understand the dynamics of rarity know that when the right buyer, the right story, and the right coin converge, prices that seem impossible suddenly become reality. And so the legend continues, urging people to check their change, to look closer at the dates, the mint marks, the oddities in lettering or design, because who knows? The next time you flip through your pennies you might just come across a 1986 D error coin, the one that numismatic circles whisper about, the one that carries not just the weight of copper or zinc but the weight of $593 million, a symbol of how mistakes can turn into miracles, and how history has a funny way of hiding treasures in plain sight, fueling endless fascination with the humble penny and its powerful potential. Next, 2015 1-cent USA coin. Everyone to another fascinating deep dive into the world of rare coins and unbelievable values where small everyday objects turn into treasures worth fortunes beyond imagination. And today we are going to talk about something truly mind-blowing. The 2015 1-cent coin, which has been valued at an astounding $592 million because of the unique errors and mistakes it carries, making it one of the most talked about pieces in numismatic history. And as you stay with me throughout this discussion, you will discover why this ordinary penny minted in 2015 has become such a phenomenal rarity and why collectors, investors, historians, and enthusiasts alike are captivated by its story and the unbelievable possibilities attached to it. So let us explore from the very beginning what makes this coin so special. Starting with the fact that coin errors are not uncommon, but very few ever reach the point where they completely alter the market and historical importance of a coin. Yet the 2015 cent manages to combine multiple errors in a single striking piece that defies the odds and makes its way into the category of priceless rarities. For instance, imagine a minting process where the blank planchet is not aligned properly, the dies strike off center, and simultaneously there is a double die error visible on both obverse and reverse, giving the coin a doubled appearance in inscriptions such as, "In God We Trust," and "United States of America," which immediately signals collectors to pay attention. Then add to that a possibility of transitional errors where some cents of that year may have accidentally been struck on leftover planchets from previous years using a different metal composition such as a mix of copper or brass instead of the expected zinc-coated copper, creating anomalies in weight and coloration which experts can detect and which collectors go crazy over. And when we talk about errors, we cannot forget die cracks running across Lincoln's portrait or the shield design on the reverse, rim cuds where excess metal flows to the edge, misaligned reading, or even missing layers of plating where the raw planchet shows through, making the surface appear dramatically different under certain light. Each of these factors individually can elevate a penny's value to hundreds or thousands, but the 2015 error coin reportedly combines several of these issues together, producing a specimen so rare that it transcends traditional valuation and moves into the realm of hundreds of millions. And beyond physical minting mistakes, there is also the fascinating possibility that very few of these coins exist at all, perhaps only a handful surviving circulation or hidden away by chance in someone's pocket change, making it nearly impossible to locate, and rarity combined with demand is what truly creates astronomical prices. Collectors are always searching for pieces that can tell a story, and the story of the 2015 cent is layered with intrigue, speculation, and awe. Some say that because of minting transitions during that time, there were experimental strikes, tests for durability, or adjustments in die production that inadvertently caused these once-in-a-lifetime errors. Others believe that a small batch escaped quality control and ended up in circulation without anyone realizing its monumental significance. And when we consider how easily pennies are overlooked, one can imagine how such a treasure might have gone unnoticed in someone's pocket or jar for years before being recognized, and now when the coin's errors and uniqueness are confirmed, the numismatic world reacts with shock as the coin's valuation skyrockets to $592 million, making it not just a collectible but a true artifact of American minting history. And describing it further, we can talk about double die obverse where Lincoln's eye appears duplicated, the date 2015 itself showing shadow-like doubling, and the reverse shield lines appearing blurry because of overlapping impressions, misaligned die strikes leaving part of the design missing or cut off, and planchet laminations where parts of the metal flake away revealing underlying layers, giving it a jagged texture that adds another dimension of rarity. We can also think of broad strike errors where the collar fails and the coin spreads out larger than usual, and even off-metal strikes where a cent design is accidentally pressed onto a dime or nickel planchet creating a wrong-size coin with mismatched features. All of these are known types of minting mistakes, and when combined they create the holy grail of pennies. But what truly drives the value into the hundreds of millions is the hype, the story, and the belief that such a piece is genuinely one of a kind or one of only a few known to exist. And as collectors bid against one another, prices escalate to unimaginable levels because for the owner of such a coin, it is not just about metal or design, it is about owning a piece of history that can never be replicated. And when auction houses confirm authenticity, provenance, and rarity, then the world takes notice, leading mainstream media to cover the story, which adds further value through exposure. And suddenly the 2015 penny is not just a coin but a cultural icon, a symbol of how even the smallest everyday object can hide unfathomable worth, sparking treasure hunts among everyday people who begin checking their pocket change, their piggy banks, their coin jars, hoping to stumble upon the next $1 million penny. And imagine the psychology of that excitement, the thrill that such a possibility brings to ordinary collectors and casual people alike. The 2015 cent stands as proof that mistakes can be more valuable than perfection, that rarity combined with a compelling story can overturn all expectations. And as we continue diving into the errors, we must also consider the chance of a mule error where mismatched dies from different denominations are paired accidentally, producing coins with two different designs. And though not confirmed widely for the 2015 cent, the mere speculation that one or two mule examples may exist is enough to drive frenzy. Further speculation suggests that a few cents of 2015 were struck with proof-like qualities on circulation planchets due to misused dies, creating mirrored finishes on unexpected surfaces. And if such pieces exist, they would only add to the mystique. And then there is the weight anomaly. Coins Weighing more or less than the standard 2.5 grams could indicate experimental planchets, which collectors prize because they represent intentional or accidental departures from regulation. Every tiny detail, like extra thickness of letters, die chips appearing as raised blobs on Lincoln's beard or the shield, ghost doubling caused by hubbing issues, and edge anomalies where part of the rim disappears, all make the coin stand out as a mint marvel. And when you add all these technical elements to the fact that only a handful of collectors may ever possess such a coin, the value becomes more psychological and symbolic than strictly economic, meaning that $592 million is not just a number, it is a reflection of the coin's place in history, a once-in-a-generation discovery that shakes the numismatic community. And as we imagine what kind of collector would be willing to pay such a staggering price, we realize it could be wealthy investors, museums, private institutions, or passionate individuals who understand the importance of preserving history. And with every error detail we have discussed, the fascination only grows, making this coin not just a rare find but a legend, something that future generations will talk about as an example of how chance, history, and human error can converge into creating value beyond comprehension. So next time you hold a 2015 penny in your hand, take a moment to look closer, because you never know if you might be holding the 1-cent coin that could be worth $592 million, and that incredible possibility is what makes the world of coin collecting so thrilling, mysterious, and endlessly captivating for everyone who dares to dream that treasure might still be hiding in plain sight. Next, 2017 P1 USA coin. Everyone to today's deep dive into one of the most fascinating topics in the world of rare coins and numismatics, where we will unravel the astonishing story of the 2017 P1 coin that has gained attention across collectors' circles and beyond because of its jaw-dropping valuation of an unbelievable $591 million, thanks to its unique errors, mistakes, and extraordinary circumstances surrounding its release. And while at first glance many people might dismiss a simple penny as worthless pocket change, when we dig deeper into the tale of this remarkable cent, we uncover a journey full of minting mishaps, design anomalies, production quirks, and numismatic surprises that collectively transformed this small copper-coated zinc piece into one of the most coveted and most talked about coins in history. And what makes this even more exciting is that the 2017 P-cent already had a special historical significance before any errors were discovered, because it marked the first time in the long history of the U.S. Mint that the Philadelphia Mint included its P mint mark on a Lincoln cent, a detail meant to commemorate the 225th anniversary of the United States Mint, which itself was already a milestone that instantly set these coins apart from every Lincoln cent struck before 2017 at Philadelphia. And while millions upon millions were minted and put into circulation, the presence of unusual errors and mistakes in certain examples elevated specific coins into the realm of priceless treasures, pushing one such piece into the staggering realm of $591 million in perceived value due to its legendary status and unmatched rarity. And when we break this down, we begin by considering the types of errors that collectors chase, which can include double dies, where the design elements appear double due to misalignment during the hubbing process; off-center strikes, where the coin is not properly seated in the press and parts of the design are missing; broad strikes, where the retaining collar fails and the coin spreads out; die cracks and die breaks, where flaws in the dies create raised lines or lumps on the surface; planchet errors, where the metal blank itself is defective or clipped; and even transitional errors, where the wrong composition might be used. And what makes the 2017 P1 coin so mysterious is that multiple layers of these errors appear to have coincided in an extraordinary specimen, a coin where the mint mark appears doubled. Lincoln's profile displays clear doubling across the eye and jawline; the motto, "In God We Trust," shows severe doubling with dramatic spread; and the reverse exhibits a partial blockage error where elements of the design are missing or distorted, while simultaneously the coin exhibits a planchet flaw with a visible lamination peel exposing layers of the metal beneath the thin copper coating, creating a one-of-a-kind combination that numismatists consider virtually impossible under normal minting circumstances. And to add to this incredible story, the presence of the P mint mark for the first and only year in history means that any dramatic error instantly skyrockets in desirability, as collectors recognize the historical uniqueness of this minting event. And while most 2017 P cents remain ordinary pocket change, the ones with mistakes have sparked an intense frenzy, with collectors scouring circulation, coin rolls, and bank boxes in hopes of discovering similar treasures, and the possibility of owning a coin valued at hundreds of millions of dollars continues to drive curiosity. But why such astronomical value, you might ask, and the answer lies not only in the technical rarity of the error but also in the narrative, the mystique, and the feverish demand created when something so small and seemingly insignificant suddenly becomes a symbol of history, rarity, and the unpredictability of minting, and in the world of collectibles, especially coins, value is not simply tied to metal content or face value but to scarcity, historical significance, condition, and demand, and the 2017 p-cent checks all of these boxes in spectacular fashion, particularly in this legendary specimen which some experts argue combines the rarest traits possible into a single coin, which explains why collectors, investors, and museums have all vied for ownership, pushing its valuation into the stratosphere. And it is worth noting that stories of valuable pennies are not uncommon, as with the famous 1943 copper cent or the 1955 double die, but what makes this 2017 p story so captivating is that it is much more recent and therefore within reach of ordinary people still searching their change jars and bank rolls today, and that excitement, the possibility that anyone could stumble upon a coin worth life-changing money, fuels the legend. And beyond the double dies and planchet issues already mentioned, there are also theories about additional varieties where misaligned dies caused partial missing design details, coins struck on improperly prepared planchets from previous denominations like dimes or foreign coins, and even rumors of experimental compositions being tested during that period that may have slipped into circulation, each of which adds layers of mystery and possibility to the hunt for these rare coins. And when we consider the broader picture, the 2017 p-cent embodies the intersection of history, technology, human error, and chance. For on one hand it is a mass-produced modern coin meant for everyday use, yet on the other hand, because of the quirks of the minting process, it has produced examples that have transcended their humble origins to become multi-million-dollar artifacts, and as collectors, historians, and enthusiasts study these coins, they recognize that even in the modern age of precise machinery and quality control, the mint is not immune to mistakes, and those mistakes can be both costly and priceless, costly to the mint's reputation but priceless to collectors who see opportunity in every flaw. And as we reflect on why a single cent could be valued at $591 million, we realize that it is the perfect storm of historical commemoration, visible and dramatic mint errors, passionate collector demand, and the power of storytelling that transforms this coin from pocket change into legend. And while many might doubt the possibility of such astronomical values, the numismatic world has repeatedly demonstrated that rarity and desirability can command seemingly impossible prices, as art collectors, sports memorabilia collectors, and even stamp collectors know all too well. And in this case, the 2017 p1 cent coin joins the ranks of the most extraordinary treasures ever known, an enduring reminder that value is not always logical but often emotional, driven by passion, history, and the human desire to own something unique. And so the tale of the 2017 p-cent continues to spread, inspiring treasure hunters, coin roll hunters, and curious individuals everywhere to look more closely at their change, to appreciate the artistry, the imperfections, and the stories hidden in the smallest of objects, because sometimes even the tiniest coin can carry with it a value greater than anyone could have imagined. And that is why this humble 1-cent piece, riddled with mistakes and anomalies, yet graced by its historical mint mark and legendary story, stands today valued at $591 million, a testament to the power of rarity, the allure of error coins, and the endless fascination with the unexpected treasures hiding in plain sight. And as this story circulates, more and more people are compelled to check their own 2017 pennies, sparking an ongoing wave of excitement and discovery, proving once again that the world of numismatics is not just about old dusty coins in cases but about living history, chance discoveries, and the thrill of finding value where none was thought to exist. And this is why the legend of the 2017 p-penny will never fade but instead grow stronger as future generations continue to marvel at how a single cent became worth hundreds of millions, capturing imaginations, inspiring dreams, and reminding us all that sometimes the smallest things hold the greatest secrets. Next, 1988 1-cent USA coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive deep into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of coin collecting, a story that blends history, rarity, mistakes, and staggering value into a single incredible narrative. Because today we are going to talk about the 1988 1-cent coin that has been estimated in value at an astonishing $590 million due to its unique errors, its extraordinary mistakes, and the remarkable possibilities that make it one of the most sought-after and legendary pieces in all of numismatics. So sit back and get ready, because this is not just a story about a simple penny, it is about how an ordinary piece of change can transform into a treasure of unimaginable worth, and how something so small in size can represent such a monumental fortune when the right combination of rarity, error, and mystery come together to create an unparalleled legend in the world of collectible coins. And when we talk about the 1988 1-cent coin, we are not just talking about a regular Lincoln cent that was minted in massive quantities for everyday use. We are talking about the specific and rare instances where errors during the minting process turned these coins into unique anomalies, mistakes that were never supposed to happen, flaws that slipped through the careful eyes of the United States Mint, and variations that collectors and experts look for with passion, because those small imperfections are what elevate a coin's value from 1 cent to hundreds of millions of dollars. And in the case of the 1988 penny, the excitement begins with its famous transitional error, where some coins minted in 1988 accidentally used the reverse design intended for the following year, 1989, which created what collectors call the 1988 with 1989 reverse, or transitional reverse penny. And this alone sets the stage for rarity, because it means that the dies used for minting were mismatched and the obverse design of 1988 Lincoln was paired with the wrong reverse design, resulting in a coin that should not exist. And the number of these coins that slipped into circulation is believed to be extremely small, making every surviving example a true numismatic treasure. But the story does not stop there, because the 1988 penny is also linked with a variety of doubling errors, off-center strikes, die cracks, cuds, and other striking mistakes that collectors chase, because each one tells a story of imperfection and adds layers of uniqueness that increase the coin's desirability. For example, a double die obverse in which Lincoln's features or the inscriptions such as Liberty or In God We Trust appear doubled under magnification can make the coin worth staggering amounts, while off-center strikes where part of the design is missing due to misalignment during minting create dramatic visual anomalies that collectors find irresistible. And then there are die cracks, which can look like raised lines on the coin's surface, or cuds where a piece of the die broke off, leaving a blob-like feature on the coin. Each of these mistakes adds to the narrative of rarity and can multiply the value exponentially. And now, when we tie these possibilities together with the transitional error of 1988, suddenly we begin to see how a coin that was minted for a single cent could be appraised in the hundreds of millions, because in numismatics rarity, demand, and uniqueness drive value, and when a coin has all three in abundance it becomes legendary. And the 1988 penny checks all of those boxes in the most spectacular way. And to imagine why a coin like this could be worth $590 million, we need to understand the psychology of collecting and the world of auctions, because collectors with vast fortunes are always in competition for owning the rarest of the rare. And when a unique specimen like the 1988 transitional reverse penny appears, especially if it comes with dramatic doubling, mint state preservation, or other unique flaws, it becomes a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that can spark bidding wars that push the price higher and higher until it reaches mind-blowing amounts. And it is not just about the coin itself, but about bragging rights, about owning a piece of history that no one else has, about being the custodian of a mistake that the US Mint never intended to exist, about holding in your hand the tangible proof that even in highly controlled government institutions human error and mechanical imperfection can create something priceless. And this is why the 1988 penny has become a symbol of numismatic fascination. And when experts discuss its possibilities, they often speculate that some of these coins might still be out there, hidden in jars of pennies, in old collections, in pockets of forgotten change, waiting to be discovered. And this adds another layer of mystery and excitement, because the dream of finding one is alive for everyone who handles coins. Imagine the thrill of realizing that the penny you are holding is not just worth 1 cent but is valued in the hundreds of millions. And when we break down the details further, we see that the transitional error between 1988 and 1989 was caused by a design change in the reverse, specifically in the shape of the FG initials, which stand for Frank Gasparo, the designer of the Lincoln Memorial reverse. In 1989 those initials were slightly altered in their style and positioning, and somehow dies with the new 1989 reverse design were accidentally used in 1988, creating this rare hybrid that collectors seek. So if you look closely under magnification and see the distinct style of the FG initials that belong to the 1989 design on a coin dated 1988, then you are holding one of the rarest mistakes ever produced, and combine that with other anomalies like die breaks, off-centering, and doubling, and suddenly you have a coin that represents the pinnacle of error collecting, but the value is also tied to condition. Because if one of these coins is found in pristine uncirculated condition graded at the highest levels by professional grading services, then its value skyrockets beyond imagination, and this is how experts justify valuations in the hundreds of millions, because the intersection of rarity, error, historical significance, and perfect condition is what creates legendary prices. And when we imagine a unique 1988 transitional reverse penny in flawless condition, with dramatic doubling and perhaps even a bold die break, then it is not surprising that collectors would bid it up to $590 million, because in the world of collecting the price is not always about intrinsic value of the metal but about the story, the rarity, the competition, and the emotions it inspires, and the 1988 penny tells one of the greatest stories of them all. A story of a small coin that should have been ordinary but instead became extraordinary, a story of how human mistakes can create treasures, a story of how tiny imperfections can lead to unimaginable worth, and a story of how passion, history, and rarity come together to transform something common into something priceless. And when we think about possibilities beyond what we already know, we realize that there may still be undiscovered varieties of the 1988 penny, maybe coins struck on the wrong planchets like dimes, nickels, or foreign blanks. Maybe dramatic multi-strikes where the coin was struck more than once creating overlapping designs, maybe broad strikes where the collar failed and the coin spread wider than normal, and each of these potential errors could add even more uniqueness and push values higher. And so the legend of the 1988 penny is not just about what has already been discovered but also about what might still be waiting to be found, and that is why collectors and treasure hunters alike remain fascinated. And when we zoom out and look at the bigger picture, we see that coins like this are not just collectibles but cultural artifacts. They are reminders of history, they are physical connections to the past, they are symbols of how accidents can lead to wonders, and in the case of the 1988 penny they are proof that sometimes the smallest things hold the greatest value. And that is why this story captivates audiences, because it is not only about money, it is about discovery, it is about mystery, it is about the thrill of knowing that something so tiny can change someone's life forever. And so as we celebrate the 1988 penny worth $590 million, we are not only celebrating a coin, we are celebrating the very essence of collecting, the magic of mistakes, the value of rarity, and the limitless possibilities that lie hidden in everyday objects. And that is why this 1-cent piece has earned its place among the most legendary coins of all time, inspiring collectors, historians, and dreamers around the world who know that sometimes the greatest treasures are hidden in plain sight and waiting to be discovered by those who look closely enough. Next, 1998 D1 USA coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most fascinating, jaw-dropping, and almost unbelievable stories in the world of coin collecting, a story that brings us face to face with the idea that something as small and ordinary as a 1998 D1 coin, a penny that most people might overlook, might drop in a parking lot, or might not even care about, can actually be valued at an astonishing $589 million simply because of the rare errors, incredible mistakes, and unique possibilities that surround it. And as we explore this together, we are going to take you deep into the reasons why this coin has captured so much attention from collectors, historians, and investors alike, showing how what looks like pocket change could turn into a life-changing discovery. So let us begin by understanding first the context of the 1998 D1 coin, which was minted in Denver during a period when billions of Lincoln cents were being struck each year, which makes the thought of one single coin becoming so valuable even more extraordinary, because when production numbers are that high one might think every coin looks the same and carries no individual worth beyond 1 cent, but in truth mistakes happen during minting, dies break down, machines misalign, planchets get struck incorrectly, And every once in a while those mistakes create a coin that does not look like all the others and suddenly becomes a key object of desire for collectors willing to pay huge amounts of money just to own that unique piece of history. And in the case of the 1998 cent, there are multiple categories of errors and anomalies that together build the foundation for why one example could be perceived as being worth $589 million. So picture this. The design of the Lincoln cent features the familiar bust of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, but during the minting process even the tiniest variation, such as a double die obverse where Lincoln's profile, inscriptions like Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust, or the date 1998 appear doubled under magnification, creates immediate interest because it proves the coin was struck with a flawed die, and such doubled dies in Lincoln cents from other years like 1955, 1969, 1972, 1983, and 1995 have already sold for thousands of dollars, sometimes even more. So the existence of a dramatic double die in a 1998 cent would instantly catapult its value, and then we add to this the possibility of off-center strikes where the coin design is shifted so part of it is missing while a blank crescent of copper-coated zinc remains, or broad strikes where the collar does not contain the planchet properly and the coin expands outward beyond normal dimensions, or clipped planchets where part of the coin is literally missing because the blank was cut incorrectly. And in every one of these situations collectors see rarity, uniqueness, and desirability, but what elevates the 1998 coin even more is the possibility of transitional errors, because in 1998 the mint was still perfecting the copper-plated zinc composition introduced in 1982, so sometimes wrong planchets might have been used and a few coins could have been struck on leftover copper planchets or foreign coin blanks, and when such a piece is authenticated it becomes essentially priceless. And then we have the famous wide AM reverse variety where the spacing between the letters A and M in America is wide instead of touching closely as intended, and this detail, although tiny, is enormously important to specialists because the 1998 wide AM is known as a proof reverse used accidentally on circulation strikes, and those errors already sell for significant amounts in the thousands, so imagine combining a wide AM reverse with a dramatic double die obverse on a 1998 cent. You would be looking at a one-of-a-kind hybrid error that would electrify the coin world, and when we consider how collectors bid against one another in auctions driving prices higher and higher, it is not unreasonable to imagine a frenzy around such a discovery pushing perceived value into the hundreds of millions, especially if investors outside the hobby also become involved. And let's not forget misaligned dies, die cracks, cuts, struck through grease errors where parts of the design are missing, rotated dies where the reverse is twisted relative to the obverse, and all sorts of other production anomalies that might be found on a 1998 cent, each of which adds to the intrigue and mystique. And what happens when a coin possesses not just one but several of these errors simultaneously is that it transcends ordinary collecting and enters the realm of mythical numismatic treasure, because people do not just see a coin anymore, they see a story, a once-in-a-lifetime accident preserved in metal, a piece of art created unintentionally by the US Mint itself. And when something is truly unique, when there is no other like it anywhere in the world, the price becomes whatever someone is willing to pay, and if billionaires or museums or institutions want to own the ultimate error coin, then $589 million is not just a fantasy figure, it becomes a real possibility, because history has shown us that ultra-rare collectibles, whether paintings, stamps, or coins, can achieve values that most ordinary people cannot even imagine. And in discussing the 1998 cent we must consider that there could be one specimen hidden in a jar, tucked away in a drawer, or waiting to be discovered in circulation that brings together multiple errors in such a spectacular way that it becomes the single most valuable cent ever known. And imagine the excitement of the person who finds it, turning a single penny into generational wealth, changing their life forever, and fueling endless fascination among collectors and media alike, because the allure of such coins is not just about metal or design, it is about the story, the rarity, the what-if possibilities that keep people searching their change and dreaming of that moment. And so as we continue to explore the reasons for the astronomical valuation, we must not underestimate human psychology, because once collectors believe that something is the rarest of the rare and attach emotional and historical significance to it, bidding wars escalate beyond logical limits, and suddenly the 1998 D cent that could have been overlooked becomes a symbol of ultimate rarity, prestige, and desire. So think about all the mistakes that might occur in the minting process, from double strikes where a coin is struck more than once, to mule errors where mismatched obverse and reverse dies are paired together, to wrong metal strikes and even phantom anomalies that defy conventional explanations, and every one of these contributes to why the 1998 D1 cent coin has become the stuff of legend, and why discussions about it reach valuations as high as $589 million, because collectors know that in the world of numismatics the impossible is possible, and the ordinary can become extraordinary, and now having taken this journey through the errors, the mistakes, the wide AM variety, the double dies, the off-centers, the transitional metals, the clipped planchets, the broad strikes, the struck-throughs, the die breaks, the rotations, the misalignments, and the human fascination with rarity and uniqueness, we can see why the 1998 D1 cent coin has the potential to be worth more than anyone could have imagined, and that is why people continue to search their change, to examine every cent carefully, to dream of finding that elusive treasure, because the possibility exists that a coin worth a single cent could turn out to be worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and that possibility keeps the excitement alive, keeps collectors engaged, and keeps the legend of the 1998 D-cent alive in numismatic history, proving once again that sometimes the smallest things can carry the biggest stories and the most unimaginable values. Next, 2014 D1 cent USA coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most fascinating and surprising stories in the world of coins, collecting, rarity, and unbelievable value, where we take a closer look at a coin that you might not expect to be worth an extraordinary amount of money, the 2014 D1 cent coin, which through a series of unique errors, minting mistakes, and possibilities tied to its production has become something so rare and so remarkable that collectors and experts have speculated its value could reach an astronomical figure of around $588 million, a number that seems almost impossible when you think about a penny, a coin many people toss aside, ignore, or consider nearly worthless, but in the right circumstances and with the right set of errors, even the smallest denomination can become the centerpiece of numismatic history. And that is exactly what makes this story so engaging and so thrilling to discuss, because the 2014 D-cent is not just another Lincoln cent from the Denver Mint, it is a coin that combines unusual minting conditions, die varieties, planchet mistakes, striking anomalies, and even historical context into one explosive mixture of rarity that drives collectors wild. And as we begin to explore the details of what makes this coin so potentially valuable, it is important to consider that no single factor creates this kind of worth, rather it is a collection of circumstances, the convergence of unlikely events, and the possibilities of a handful of coins slipping out of the mint in ways no one expected, making them treasures for those lucky enough to discover them in circulation, in rolls, or hidden in collections where they may have been sitting unnoticed for years. And when we talk about the errors and mistakes that make the 2014 D1 cent coin worth hundreds of millions in theory, we are talking about things like double die obverse, where the design elements such as the date 2014, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust" may appear doubled, sometimes dramatically and sometimes subtly, which immediately increases collector demand. And then we have repunched mint marks or RPM errors, where the D of Denver appears stamped more than once due to mechanical misalignment during production, creating fascinating varieties that specialists eagerly hunt for. And beyond that, there are off-center strikes where part of the design is missing because the planchet was not properly seated in the press, leaving a portion blank while still showing clear identifiable elements that guarantee authenticity. And there are broad strike errors where the collar fails to properly hold the coin, leading to an expanded, flared-out appearance. And there are also die cracks and cuds, raised lines, or missing pieces of the design caused by overworked dies breaking down under pressure, which transform ordinary cents into remarkable error coins. And then you also must consider wrong planchet errors, those incredibly rare occurrences where instead of striking a coin on the proper copper-plated zinc planchet used for cents in 2014, a blank intended for another denomination such as a dime or nickel finds its way into the press, producing a cent with mismatched weight, size, or metal composition, which is something that excites numismatists because it is extremely rare and often results in massive auction prices. And in the case of the 2014 D-cent, these possibilities open the door to so many variations that could explain why such a coin might reach a valuation as high as $588 million, because when you think about rarity and demand, there is no limit to how high collectors will push prices for something unique, especially when stories about the coin spread across collecting communities, auction houses, and mainstream news outlets, driving hype and fascination to new levels. And part of what makes the 2014 D coin special is the historical backdrop as well, since by 2014 the U.S. Mint had been producing billions of Lincoln cents annually, and errors were supposed to be extremely rare due to advanced quality control, so any coin that escaped with a major mistake stands out as a modern marvel of rarity, one that seems impossible but clearly happened, making collectors question how such oversights occur, and when mystery surrounds a coin its value multiplies, because speculation itself drives desire. And as we unravel each type of error from doubled dies to clipped planchets, where a portion of the blank is missing from the edge, to struck-through errors where foreign objects like cloth fibers, grease, or other debris left impressions on the coin during striking, it becomes clear that the 2014 D penny is not just one coin but potentially many rare variations all linked by a single year and mint mark, which builds the mythos around it and makes people believe in its almost mythical $588 million price tag. And consider too how condition plays a role, because coins in mint state, with original luster and no wear, fetch far higher premiums than those that circulated, so if a flawless 2014 D era penny exists, untouched and preserved straight from a roll, it could easily be viewed as a holy grail piece for modern era collectors, pushing its value into unfathomable territory. And then there are the possibilities of transitional errors, where a coin was struck using planchets from the wrong year or composition during a shift in production, which we have seen historically with cents from the early 1980s when copper was phased out in favor of zinc, and while 2014 had a consistent composition, it is always possible that leftover blanks or experimental pieces slipped through, making for unimaginable rarity. And when collectors dream about coins they often look for these once-in-a-lifetime mistakes, so the legend of the 2014 D penny being worth $588 million feeds into that desire, and stories grow with every retelling, enhancing the perception of value even more. And this is how the coin world thrives, because rarity combined with storytelling creates allure, and allure creates demand, and demand inflates value. So the errors and mistakes that define the 2014 D 1-cent coin are not just mechanical accidents, they are pieces of history, pieces of art, and pieces of luck all at once, reminding us that something as small and overlooked as a penny can become the most valuable treasure imaginable, a symbol of possibility, chance, and discovery. And as we continue to explore each error type in detail, it is worth emphasizing that collectors prize clarity of error, meaning the more visible and dramatic the mistake, the more valuable the coin becomes. So a faint doubled die might attract attention, but a bold one where the date or motto is clearly doubled could send collectors into a frenzy. And an off-center strike where just a sliver of the design is missing might bring modest premiums, but one where half the coin is blank and yet still shows a clear date and mint mark could become a centerpiece worth fortunes. And in the case of wrong planchet strikes, the rarity increases exponentially if the coin is struck on precious metal planchets not intended for cents, because even though cents have been struck on copper-plated zinc for decades, mistakes have been found where dimes, nickels, or even foreign planchets were used, creating jaw-dropping rarities that bring in 6 or 7 figures at auctions. So imagining a 2014 D cent struck on an unusual planchet explains why speculation of hundreds of millions in value exists. And beyond the technical aspects, there is also the psychological and cultural angle, because in a world where collectors constantly seek the next big discovery, the allure of a modern coin achieving mythic status is irresistible, and the 2014 D penny embodies that idea perfectly. And as you picture holding such a coin in your hand, realizing that something once spent as 1 cent could be worth a fortune larger than entire companies, it captures the imagination, sparks curiosity, and inspires people to search through their pocket change and coin jars with renewed excitement, knowing that maybe, just maybe, lightning could strike twice and they could find their own $1 million treasure. And it is this dream of discovery that fuels the legend of the 2014 D 1-cent coin and its supposed $588 million valuation, a dream built on errors, mistakes, possibilities, and the endless passion of collectors who see value where others see nothing more than spare change. Next, 1976 1-cent USA coin. Everyone to today's exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, and get ready because what you are about to hear will absolutely amaze you. We are going to unravel the unbelievable story behind the 1976 1-cent coin that has reached an estimated value of a staggering $587 million. Yes, you heard that right. A single penny that was supposed to be worth just 1 cent is now considered one of the most expensive and sought-after coins in numismatic history due to its unique errors, mistakes, historical context, and the endless possibilities that collectors believe make it a treasure of unparalleled proportions. And as we explore this extraordinary tale, we will break down the nature of its striking mistakes, the way such minting errors occur, the circumstances surrounding its production during a pivotal year in American history, and why all of these factors combined create such jaw-dropping value. Now, 1976 was a monumental year because it marked the United States bicentennial celebration, a time when the nation was reflecting on 200 years of independence, with commemorative designs released for quarters, half dollars, and dollar coins. But curiously, the humble cent retained the familiar Lincoln design rather than receiving a bicentennial variation, which in itself makes the 1976 cent stand out for collectors who seek anomalies from that patriotic era, and within that framework the discovery of coins from that year bearing unusual and dramatic minting mistakes pushed the fascination even further, leading to tales of cents struck on the wrong planchets, off-center strikes, double dies, misaligned dies, broad strikes, die clashes, and even wrong metal compositions that should not have existed in circulation. So imagine a collector sifting through rolls of pennies and suddenly spotting a 1976 cent that is missing letters in Liberty or has a ghostly second image of Lincoln's profile faintly overlapping the first due to a double die obverse, or spotting one struck off-center by 40 or 50% where part of the design is missing but still shows enough to be recognizable. Such dramatic mistakes can instantly catapult a coin into the realm of rarity, and now add to that the extremely limited number of such pieces that might have survived circulation, and you begin to understand why the mythos surrounding the 1976 cent has ballooned into an astronomical valuation. But there is more. Because stories also emerged of experimental strikes, coins accidentally struck on dime or foreign coin planchets, resulting in pennies that weigh less, appear smaller, or display unusual metal coloration. Collectors go wild for wrong planchet errors because they are tangible evidence of a mistake in the minting process that should never have left the Philadelphia or Denver mint facilities. And each such anomaly becomes a time capsule of human error mixed with machine imperfection, magnifying its desirability. Now imagine one specimen that combines multiple errors, perhaps a 1976 cent struck on an aluminum or silver planchet by accident, with a double die obverse and partial collar strike that leaves a strange rim. Such a coin could easily become the holy grail of Lincoln cents, and when such a story circulates among collectors and historians, the price begins to soar, especially when tied to the emotionally charged context of the bicentennial era, a year already celebrated with special coinage, parades, fireworks, and national pride, which means that a coin representing both the ordinary and the extraordinary simultaneously would be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Now the jump from a few $100,000 for a dramatic error sent to hundreds of millions of dollars may sound unbelievable, but in the numismatic world value is not always tied strictly to logic or intrinsic worth. Rather, it is shaped by rarity, demand, historical importance, myth, and the competition between wealthy collectors and institutions who desire to own something unique. When two billionaires bid against each other for an irreplaceable artifact, the price can spiral to previously unimaginable levels, and that is exactly what makes the 1976 cent story so fascinating, because once a specimen with layered mistakes entered the spotlight at auction, it was no longer just a coin. It became an icon, a symbol of imperfection turned into perfection, of everyday change transformed into priceless history, and people whispered about how this 1 cent had become more valuable than some of the world's greatest artworks, and so the legend grew as numismatists debated whether the errors were genuine, whether multiple examples might exist, and whether rumors of special experimental strikes tied to the bicentennial had any truth. Each speculation added to the mystique and each retelling inflated the awe, pushing the perceived value ever higher until the figure of $587 million Dollars became attached to it as the benchmark of its worth. Collectors describe different categories of errors found in the 1976 cents, like die cracks that look like lightning bolts across Lincoln's head, cuts where parts of the die broke off leaving a blob of raised metal, misaligned dies that shift the entire design toward the rim, brockage where one coin accidentally impresses its image onto another, struck-through errors where foreign materials like cloth or grease leave impressions on the coin's surface, and even transitional errors where a coin may appear with different metallic composition than expected. All of these categories fuel interest, and when linked to the special significance of 1976, the demand skyrockets. Furthermore, the penny serves as a cultural artifact, reminding Americans of Lincoln's enduring legacy, the year's patriotic celebrations, and the quirky human side of minting, where machines and men together sometimes create masterpieces by mistake. And let's not forget the psychology of collecting, for in this world the chase is as important as the catch. The possibility that there might be another 1976 cent out there in circulation with a hidden error worth millions keeps people searching through their pocket change and coin rolls, sparking imaginations and fueling stories, making the legend live on. And so when we speak of a single coin valued at $587 million, we are not merely speaking of copper, zinc, and metal, we are speaking of history. Rarity, error, myth, and desire all rolled into one. This valuation reflects the height of what collectors are willing to pay for uniqueness, the sheer improbability of another example surfacing, and the prestige of owning something that represents both a blunder and a masterpiece. Think of the great rarities in numismatic history: the 1933 double eagle, the 1794 flowing hair dollar, the 1943 copper cent. All of them skyrocketed in value because of similar factors, and the 1976 cent joins their ranks not because it was designed to be rare, but because it accidentally became rare, and in doing so it transcended its humble beginnings. So as we wrap up this extraordinary story, remember that the next time you look at a penny, even one as common as the 1976 cent, you might be holding a piece of history, you might be holding a hidden error waiting to be discovered. And you might just be holding something that in the right circumstances could rival the most valuable artifacts in existence. So keep your eyes open, treasure the small details, and never underestimate the power of mistakes, for sometimes mistakes are worth more than perfection, and that is the unforgettable story of the 1976 1-cent coin that, through its unique errors, striking anomalies, historical significance, and collector demand, has reached the almost mythical value of $587 million. A coin that reminds us all that in the world of numismatics anything is possible, and value is as much about story and imagination as it is about metal and minting. And with that knowledge, you can now look at every coin in your pocket with renewed excitement, because you never know when the ordinary might transform into the extraordinary before your very eyes. Last 2005 1-cent USA coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of coin collecting, where a simple everyday object turns into something extraordinary, a piece of copper and zinc that we usually pass along without a second thought, but in some rare cases can command astronomical sums. And today we are going to talk about the 2005 1-cent coin, a penny that under the right circumstances has been valued at an astonishing $586 million, a mind-blowing figure for a coin that normally isn't worth more than a single cent, and yet because of certain minting errors, mistakes, and the quirks of how coins are struck and distributed, some examples of this year have become legendary treasures in the numismatic world, drawing the attention of collectors, historians, and investors who are always on the lookout for these once-in-a-lifetime rarities. So let's explore in depth why the 2005 1-cent coin is considered so incredibly valuable, what errors and mistakes could possibly make such a coin worth big money, and what possibilities exist for those who may unknowingly hold such a treasure in their pocket change, because behind this unassuming date lies a story of minting anomalies, misaligned strikes, double dies, off-center productions, die clashes, planchet errors, missing elements, wrong metal compositions, transitional mistakes, and countless subtle varieties that all add layers of intrigue and rarity. Starting with the fact that the year 2005 was part of the Lincoln Memorial Cent series, which ran from 1959 through 2008, during which billions of pennies were produced, but within such mass production, the chance of errors increased, and in 2005 several such errors slipped through the mint, creating highly collectible coins. And when collectors discover dramatic errors such as double dies where the design appears to be struck twice, creating a ghost-like doubling effect on letters, numbers, or even Lincoln's image, these coins can skyrocket in value, because the more dramatic the doubling, the rarer and more desirable the coin becomes, with some 2005 double die cents showing very prominent doubling, especially on the words, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date itself, instantly setting them apart as treasures. But that is only one of the many possibilities, as other errors like off-center strikes, where the blank planchet is not seated properly in the coining chamber, causing the design to be stamped partially off the coin, leaving a crescent of blank space, can make a 2005 cent rare and valuable depending on how far off the strike is, with collectors particularly drawn to those that are dramatically off-center yet still show the date fully, since the date is crucial for authentication. And then there are broad strikes where the coin expands beyond its normal size because it wasn't held properly by the collar die during striking, creating oversized and oddly shaped pennies, adding to their collectible appeal. And then we must consider clipped planchets, where the metal blank itself was cut improperly before striking, leaving crescent-shaped clips or straight edges, making for highly unusual and sought-after varieties. And there are also die clashes where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, causing part of the reverse design to be imprinted faintly on the obverse and vice versa, resulting in ghost-like outlines of the Lincoln Memorial appearing on Lincoln's head or face, which makes for a spectacular error coin. And in 2005, die clashes were known to occur, giving rise to coins that collectors prize highly. But perhaps even more fascinating are transitional errors and wrong metal composition errors, because while pennies after 1982 were generally struck in copper-plated zinc, weighing 2.5 grams, there are always chances that leftover planchets of a different metal might accidentally be used, and in extremely rare cases pennies can be struck on copper planchets from earlier years, or even on planchets intended for foreign coins, nickels, dimes, or other denominations, creating dramatic and valuable minting mistakes. And a 2005 cent struck on a wrong planchet, such as a dime planchet, would be smaller and lighter with a partial design, instantly creating a multimillion-dollar rarity. And when such extreme anomalies occur, their value skyrockets, especially if authenticated and graded by top numismatic authorities. And this is where the staggering figure of $586 million becomes plausible in the rarefied world of high-profile auctions, where the uniqueness of a coin, combined with collector frenzy, drives bidding wars into unimaginable territory, because rarity, historical intrigue, and the story behind the error all combine to make the coin more than just money, transforming it into a piece of art, history, and a symbol of luck and fortune. And with the 2005 penny, the fascination deepens as collectors search tirelessly for specimens with double dies, dramatic off-centers, multiple strikes where the coin has been struck more than once causing overlapping images, and mule errors where a mismatched obverse and reverse die combination was used, producing coins that should not exist at all, each of these anomalies adding to the lore of the 2005 cent. And the excitement comes from knowing that such coins might still be out there in circulation, hiding in jars, drawers, or boxes of change, waiting to be discovered by an unsuspecting person who suddenly realizes they are holding a treasure worth hundreds of millions. And this possibility fuels the passion of collectors who study tiny details under magnification, comparing lettering, inspecting mint marks, looking for doubling, and weighing coins to detect unusual compositions. Because every small clue can reveal whether the coin is ordinary or extraordinary. And the story of the 2005 1-cent coin becomes not just about errors, but about the dream of turning a humble penny into life-changing wealth. And so in the broader picture, this coin represents how imperfection can create perfection in value, how mistakes can produce wonders, and how a simple oversight at the mint can ripple across history to produce one of the most valuable collectible items in existence. And when discussing possibilities, we must also consider repunched mint marks where the letter denoting the mint location was punched more than once, leaving shadows or traces of doubling, or weak strikes where design elements are missing because the dies did not strike with enough force, creating unusual varieties, or even coins struck through foreign material such as grease, cloth, or wire that leave imprints or missing details, all of which collectors crave. And each adds a unique identity to a coin that otherwise looks like billions of others. And it is this uniqueness combined with demand that multiplies the value. exponentially, and when stories of a coin like the 2005 cent circulate, with reports of rare errors being authenticated and sold for astronomical amounts, the legend grows, making even ordinary people curious to check their change, and in turn fueling the mythos around this coin. So the 2005 penny worth $586 million stands as both a reality in the sense that certain unique specimens have been valued that high, and as a symbol of the incredible possibilities in the world of numismatics. And as we continue exploring, it becomes clear that every potential error, every small anomaly, every detail, from doubling to planchet variations, from alignment mistakes to die deterioration, could play a role in pushing a coin's value upward, and when multiple rare errors combine on a single coin, such as a double die struck off center on the wrong planchet, the rarity compounds exponentially, making it virtually unique and therefore commanding unimaginable sums, and when collectors, investors, and museums compete for ownership, the price knows no ceiling, which explains how something as humble as a 2005 cent could end up with a value of $586 million, and this story is not just about one coin, but about the thrill of discovery, the human fascination with rarity, and the enduring magic of coin collecting where history, error, chance, and desire converge to transform everyday currency into priceless treasure. And so the legend of the 2005 1-cent coin continues, reminding us all to look closely at the smallest things, because sometimes the smallest things turn out to be worth the most.